Hey, welcome everybody to the Sideshow podcast. I'm your host, Izaak. This is my co-host,
Rodolfo.
And today we have a guest, director extraordinaire, Swanchote.
Not
your camera's right here. Yeah, that's your camera.
Hey.
In
the house.
Yeah. Note's a very good dear friend of mine. And how long do you think we've been friends now?
We've known each other since high school.
Yeah.
We've been friends for probably it will be 5 years this year.
What about best friends?
2. 3?
Yeah.
2018?
What?
2017?
2017 for me, so
2017 for me too.
2016, but whatever.
Real quick, hey, how'd you guys start kicking it like that? Because I don't remember you came back from the military and then all of a sudden you're kicking it with these Asians. I'm like,
I know. I was like,
I got adopted.
Where these guys come
Actually,
from?
Note was, when he reached out to me, he was doing a film on veterans.
Yeah.
And he asked me a couple questions, and then I helped him out with that. And when I got back home, I actually reached out to him because I've been trying to have a YouTube channel, like I've said so many times since like I've been 22, 23. So I was like, hey man, I really want to get to do this like well, and I have no experience. I remember I used to send you like test videos, and you're like, this is garbage. This is garbage.
I'm trying to remember those.
Yeah, on Facebook. And then I was like, he invited me over to a set he was working on.
Garbage they
Am I allowed to talk about that set?
Yeah, it was. Wait. Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was
No, you go ahead.
It was a set, and it was a pickup shot for this short we were doing in the summer. I don't think I can. I think it was too low for me. Oh, because I keep spiking, right?
Yeah, he's monitoring.
Oh, sorry, because I tend to.
You're good.
So it was this short film that they were doing pickup shots for, and I was like, okay, I'll help them. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a long day. I'm looking at the schedule. It's like shooting into like midnight, past midnight, and I'm like, Izaak was on Nuke's Children in War. I'm like, man, I don't want to drive all that way down, like all that way by myself. And so I said, Izaak, you wanna go? It's a cool set. It'll be cool. I know you wanted to do film, and that's it.
Yeah.
This is before you guys were like cool.
Yeah. He had sold me a phone before, and then in high school we used to have these competitions.
We did.
These strength competitions.
We did.
But besides the point, that was the first time I hung out with him. And then when I got on the set, it was like a crazy set, and like it wasn't the best set, I would say. And then I had a lot of like military leadership experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, bro, I think I have something to bring into the table. And it transferred really well into like production management, and then later on first AD.
Actually, that was like the spark, like the initial, but it was Halo that was a spark.
Yeah.
It was really
so
like when
we did a Halo project, failed campaign, but we got a lot of traction, and it was really good, and we got a lot of learning to do. But
I thought that trailer was dope. I'm glad I got to be a part of it for a little bit.
It was fun, and
and they're both. So the main reason everybody that knows here is I just kind of want to ask him a lot of questions about being a director, and also like how you maintain that, because obviously you want to be a feature film director, but at the same time you have a day job, which is also filming, and your own business and all that stuff. So I think a lot of people would be very interested in to see how you would do it. I would consider you a successful filmmaker. What do you think?
I appreciate that comment. First off, thank you. I think there's a lot for me. There's a lot left for me to go, I think I haven't done a feature film yet, so that's going to be a next big step. And I think in terms of corporate work or video as a business, there's a lot for me to learn. There's a lot for me to sort of like fail at so I can grow from.
Okay.
And there's a lot left for that. So I think I'm just starting out.
All right. And for our peers that listen to the show, I did ask you that you should bring 3 recommendations. Swanchote approved.
Sure.
So
I thought about that. I was thinking about different answers, and I think it's gonna be it's kind of cliche, but first recommendation, wash your hands. Yeah.
Because of the virus.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Second recommendation is be informed.
What you have to expand on that one.
I think there's a lot of information that needs to be that I think may be not correctly portrayed, and I'm not taking sides, but I think there's a lot of information that needs to be read and understood versus like summarized in a short manner, and people are not getting the information that's vital. Does that make sense, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like looking at one part and then just like, oh, this happened, and it's not that. It's like the game of telephone. You hear one thing, someone says like 1, 2, 3, and then 26 people later, it's 3 billion yellow red. It's like, oh, that's not what the original one was. And I think that's something that people need to look into and really be informed and look at information sources of where that came from. And third thing, this is gonna be lighter. Watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine because it is amazing.
Dude, I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Do you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Nah, never.
Oh
really
my
got-
God, bro!
Never
You're
really got
always
into it.
you're so
What?
You're disappointing as a
You
friend.
never got
sometimes.
into it.
No.
No, it's here, and you didn't watch. I told you he liked Brooklyn
Wait,
Nine-Nine.
wait.
No,
Dude, how many episodes have you seen?
Just a few.
Oh, they're so.
Super scattered.
Oh, they're just so good. I really like.
It really is. Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
I
Yes,
like what I
yes.
like though.
It's
What-
cool. It's
I
cool.
like what I like.
Yo,
Okay.
you know you have the heater on, fan mode, so it's only blowing out cold air. It's cold in my garage, everybody.
Yeah,
So,
it is, yeah.
he's my man. We can just turn it off too, so we can get better audio.
Sure.
If you want to be a man about it, but you know what I'm saying.
I'm wearing.
When did you develop a personality, or
That's-
have you
I
developed
feel-
your personality?
I don't know,
How
I
did?
feel like that's my thought on that is sort of like the identity that I think a lot of people. This is just my perspective.
Mhm.
It could be, and I could change this maybe tomorrow, a few days, I don't know, a few weeks from now. But I think that personality. This is not a response to that. It's
Mhm.
just something I ponder in terms of identity, and I see a lot of friends, acquaintances who are sometimes younger, and I'm super young myself,
Mhm.
and people are searching for identity. And I feel like when people are searching for something of that nature, they're not going to find it because it's something you create or forge,
Ah.
because think of it like this. Right now, let's say you tell yourself, my name is Rudy. I am a professor of blah, blah, blah at this school. This is my personality. Cool. 6 months from now, actually a year from now, you're a dad. Well, that's your identity. I mean, my bad, I'm saying identity has already shifted, right? And so all that, it's constantly growing. It's constantly changing. And I feel like when people are trying to search for that, it's searching for something that's going to be out of their reach until maybe the moment before death. That seems pretty grim, but it's like that's when you can look back upon or think if somehow you have that time to say, hey, this is what I created. This is sort of like almost like a legacy.
Yeah.
Versus like when people are searching for something but they have so much left,
I see what you're saying.
it's like it's
Yeah.
gonna change and grow. So I feel like it's the creation part is more important than the statement of this is my identity.
Oh, okay. What if you're? I think. What about developing personality in terms of like maybe being somebody? The way I see it more is like obviously your personality and who you are is always changing as you progress through life, right?
Yeah.
So it's never really set.
Sure.
But maybe there is like a big breakthrough or a big development that somebody makes.
Yeah,
That's
that's
like because that secret. For me, when he's like, I didn't develop a personality till I was 25, I'm trying to think of like when I really felt like you guys would say I'm pretty good at talking with people. Yes.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree
you
with
definitely
And-
got a mouthpiece on you. For real.
And I think I'm a likable guy. I would hope.
that. I agree. I agree with that.
But it's a big one of my assets that I use to like maneuver myself through the world. But I had to work so hard at becoming this way because I used to be very shy and very misunderstood and misspoken. So like for me, I didn't develop a personality, I would say, until I was like 22, 23, until I like made a realization that I was like, hey man, I need to change who I am and the way that I am in order to surround myself with people that care about me. Because before that, I had a really big thing happen to me where I thought I had so many friends, and I got arrested in Japan, and I literally just was moved to a different base, not even 10 minutes down the road. So like maybe an 8-minute down the road type of thing. And none of my friends ever visited me, and none of my friends ever invited me ever. We used to have barbecues every Saturday. I never was invited to another barbecue. I was never even,
I'm sorry.
and everybody, it's okay, you can laugh. And I remember I hit up a friend of mine, Mosier. What's up, bro?
Friend?
No, he's,
Or
well, I
a
thought,
friend.
but he's a really honest guy, like, you know, so he'll tell you the truth. So I hit
Yeah.
him up, and he was like, dude, you're kind of an asshole, and you're a fucking dick to everybody. Because it was at the time, like, in the military, like, I was just kind of emulating my leaders, and when you become, like, a corporal or like, you rank up, and you start treating everybody like shit, and I didn't realize I was doing that. And everybody was my friends because they were scared of me, not because they actually liked me. And I had been living like this forever, dude. And when I was in high school, I've mentioned before, Rodolfo kind of would like defend me, take me under his wing. But in high school, I was like pretty shy and not outgoing. You know what I mean? So like the big shift for me was like in the military, I was like trying to become somebody I wasn't, and like acting like a fucking like, yeah, don't fuck with, you know what I mean? Like this,
Like a Marine.
yeah.
Like a Marine.
And
Stereotypical.
that hurt me dearly. And it's just like that whole development process where it's like no friends in high school really. Up until sophomore year, I became way cooler, but because of my friends. And then once I was alone, I just became super mean and controlling.
Yeah.
And then that backfired so hard to the point where I was just like super depressed and nobody fucked with me. So then after that, I started like trying to really develop who I am and like caring about people and stuff like that. And so for me, that's when my development began.
Do you,
you
think
know?
that's, is that personality or is that identity?
I think it's, well, it in a way, it,
Good question.
in
You
a
know what I
way,
mean?
Question.
I think personality leads to identity.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Or like I think they co-inhabit like a very similar
Sure,
plane,
I can see that.
and one affects the other.
I agree with
Okay,
that.
okay. I
I
feel
you
like
know?
I feel like when you develop I guess a personality that you're good with, you know what I mean? I feel like then like that's when you're like, okay, this is me. Like this is my personality. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of people probably go through life and they're just like bouncing around, like trying to
Yeah.
find their identity, and then I guess once they develop a personality where they're like, all right, it's kind of more like, I love this person, so now it's kind of like, this is my personality. I don't know, something
that
like
makes
that, you
sense.
know?
What do you think?
Well, I think I think it's a tough one in a way, you know. I think the last few years I've become a lot more vulnerable, a lot more empathetic.
You have a nice
That's-
heart.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
I
Very
think that's,
tender.
no, thank you. I think a lot of that is attributed to what we discussed in our
Yeah,
time
we
together.
have some
You know,
good
we have some
conversations. Yeah.
And it's I feel like being able to like bring the vulnerability to the forefront
Mm-hmm.
leads to like, it's a strength, you know. And a lot of people think of it as like a weakness, but it's not. It's great to be able to care for people, to be able to like look at, hey, this is their feeling, this is how much they can, you know, help you with or do all of this. And I think there's a balance there, you know, for everything. But I think a lot of people don't show that. I think for guys, or at least the people I've noticed, it's way harder for people to like show their vulnerable side, and they look at it as like a strength to be able to hide it.
Yeah,
I'm
and
like-
then just get through it. Like,
I'm like,
I'm
it's
so
not.
complete the opposite.
I
of
know.
that.
That's why I
Yeah.
love like hanging out with you.
Yeah, I'm
No.
like, yeah, you hurt my feelings, and this is why. And then, but I think that comes from learning, because I think before I was so much the other way,
True.
where I thought I had to hide everything and
Yeah.
keep everything inside, and the way that it affected me was so bad that again, like, that's when I started my development into the other things. So I'm like, if somebody's gonna make fun of me for like my emotions, why would I be around them? You know what I mean? And stuff like that.
That's a
So
very good point. That's a very good point.
I tried to surround myself around people that would like really like thrive in that, you know. And then once I was like really comfortable, because it's really hard to talk about your emotions and stuff, and like
It is.
not feel like a girl. Not even, that's a really bad way to put it, because like my mom is actually the one that showed me how to like communicate way better, you know. But like just not how to feel, I guess, in the man world, emasculated. So it took me forever to just have the confidence where I'm like, to the point where I even express my emotions around people, and they're like, hey, you're like, they call me like a pussy or laugh at me or whatever the case is. And
So emotional.
yeah,
Like,
I don't care at this point anymore. We're and that's just like because I was able to build my confidence to the point enough that I'm like, if somebody would ridicule me for that, I'm just like, get away from me. Like, I don't want anything to do with you, So, how do you think about that though in the professional world? Because it's so much different,
That's very true. I think the balance between that is, I think there's generally a line, and that's a very good. I think it's more of it's not as deep in the professional world until you have a relationship with someone,
Yeah.
And I think and I'm trying to explore and discover that, but I feel like professionalism requires a different facet of that vulnerability,
Yeah.
And maybe that vulnerability is like an honesty and integrity thing, and maybe I'm twisting it too much, but it's like if an accountability, I think that's a good stem from it. Vulnerable is maybe to be able to say, I'm accountable for this, and I did this, I failed, and I'm going to learn from that, versus trying to blame it on others.
That makes me really upset when people
taking
do that.
ownership.
Taking ownership. And I think that's the professional thing in terms of what I'm thinking, and people have a hard time doing that,
Yeah. I did have a question for you that is directly related to filmmaking and stuff like that. And as me and Rodolfo try to dive deeper into this world, right, of like, even though this filmmaking is to a minimal level, it still takes up a lot of our time to the point where this is almost like a full-time job.
Yeah.
On
top of my full-time job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which is hard, like tomorrow I have to wake up tomorrow at 5. I have to be in Olympia to take some photos.
Congrats.
So that's good. And also, like it's a time management thing. How do you manage your personal time, right? Like either with like love, family, leisure time, with like your passion for filmmaking, and then work,
It's like, I think there's a quote. It depends on like sort of like the moment, right? And what moment you're in. Sometimes there might be a lull. There may be a moment where there's more chaos, or more there's less time for other things. But there's two things that I think I'll use to answer that. And for me, from this perspective right now, it's balance. It's constant balance as it goes. You can't say this is the ratio for 20% is going to be leisure time, 20% of this, 40% this, and then whatever is that. It can't be like that. You're going to balance per situation with an awareness that you need to balance that, because that's your life, right? And if it goes off balance too much for too long, it could lead astray. And it might have negative repercussions, So it's balancing as you go per the situation. So you're always balancing. And the second thing is, man, I had like a great answer. So you were asking me how I can you repeat that question again? Yeah, I just lost the train of
how do you balance? No, got a great mouthpiece on him too, by the way.
I'm like restricting.
Talk. Yeah,
I know.
I'm over here just like trying to listen to both of you like a little kid.
How do you balance work, relationships, and your passion? Right?
So the first one is always constantly being aware and balancing it. There's no set ratio. The second one is making time.
No one ever has time.
Yeah, and people never have enough time, right? But they seem to have time when it's something they want to do. And I think people have the ability to create time. You have to carve out time. There's always some amount of time to be able to do it. If others can do it, you can too. And I've heard of like people who say, I don't have time, I do all this. And someone says, I do that and more, and I still have time. It's a desire to, it's really asking yourself, do you actually want to do that? Do you want to carve out that time to do that? Because you can find time somewhere, I think it's the ability to then balance as you constantly go and creating time. And creating that time for something that's important to you.
And is that what you would say to somebody who is, I guess, let's say filmmaking is their passion, right? So what would you say to your young self in high school to make you now better than you are? I guess in a sense.
I think about that. I've thought about that. And there's two things. It's to be better time management,
Mm-hmm.
and procrastinate less, I think, or
Okay.
be more.
Wait, tell me, I'm you. You have,
The biggest thing.
is that how you would say it to yourself?
Yeah, I would
Okay,
probably
okay.
be pretty direct and say,
Okay,
hey,
okay.
I'm you
Wait.
from the
Yeah.
future,
Uh-huh.
right? And the biggest thing is be okay with failure and fail more.
Okay.
Fail more so that you learn more. And you don't know everything, and so learn from that. It's better to be someone who's constantly learning and failing and being okay with that than not, you know? I
Mhm.
think, I don't know if I was necessarily afraid of failing, but I didn't think. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I
You're a
think,
cocky son of a bitch back then, dude.
yeah, but
Still
yeah,
kinda.
that's true. That's true. But I think I'm trying to reduce that,
Yeah.
right? But I want to fail more because you learn more that way, and be okay with failure to actually do bigger things that require bigger risks. You know, that come with bigger risks, and whether that's personal or business. You know,
Mhm.
and we I mean, myself and whoever I ventured some business ventures with, have failed, and so it's okay to do that, but it's okay to get up and do it again.
Mhm.
Sometimes you're paralyzed from that, or it takes a bit of time to like move on, or not, you know, to move on from that, and you might not even know it. And I would tell myself, you won't know how that affects you until later, but you gotta move on. You gotta
Yeah.
be able to just pick up and go, even if you don't know the repercussions yet. Sometimes.
Gotcha. I heard a quote around that area where it's just like the end of something is just the beginning that you just don't, or it's actually the new beginning. You just don't know it yet, or something
It's,
along those lines. You know?
It's can I answer that?
Yeah, you
I
go.
think my younger self would agree with that, but wouldn't take that to the degree that I think my current self would, which
Yeah.
is, you're right, and it is true, and it like once you get it, it's like, wow, yeah.
I feel like your younger self would have tried to like challenge you and
It
True.
would.
you know,
I
what
feel like
mean?
there's a. I think
They
there's
try
a
and
big.
challenge me, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a big disparity. I feel like
Yeah.
the personality question, I think, was
Yeah.
was very.
What if I could see my younger self right now,
Yeah.
I would just punch him in the face and I would beat
yeah,
him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
just
kick myself.
yeah.
Right?
Stone Cold Stunner.
Yeah, just
But-
be like, learn, and just
Uh.
pounding my face in. You
Yeah.
will remember this day. I'll probably wear a mask so I
Right,
don't remember
yes,
that
yes,
it's
yeah.
real. You know, just like you will learn from this, and I'll just leave all the mistakes down and be like, don't mess this up. Well, I
But-
guess that wouldn't. Then I would probably change, huh?
Yeah,
in
but
the
if
future.
you if somehow it was
Dang.
like a different timeline,
Yeah.
and didn't change, in, you know, your current,
Yeah.
there's so much.
Well, maybe
right?
I wouldn't. Maybe I wouldn't ask myself to change anything. I would just still beat the shit out of me,
Sure.
just for no reason.
Mm,
Like
right.
just
Okay,
be
just
walking down the
to-
street, and then the
Just to
only
humble
memory.
yourself a little bit.
Yeah, when I come back to the present, I just have the memory and all that pain of just getting beat up by like a masked guy in an alleyway, and I'm like, damn, I deserve that.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Then would that change you at all?
I hope not.
Like you just remember like a little glimpse,
Would you?
and then that wouldn't disrupt the. The
I mean, if
timeline
it
as
didn't,
much.
I would do that. If it did, I wouldn't want to do that because the current phase, I think, going through all of that learning process,
Mhm.
all those failures, I think it's okay to call it that in a
Yeah.
way, in terms of what you expected. I think I'm defining failure as that this is what you expected, and then it's not what happened, right? And that's okay. Yeah, because right now we're in a better place. I at least I feel like I'm in
Yeah.
a great place. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
right.
I feel very content.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
Where my life is right now. There are things obviously I would like
Sure,
to
there's a
change.
lot,
You
yeah.
know, like we all would.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, like having friends like you guys and the type of relationships that I have around me now, I wouldn't change any of that for the world. And then at the same time, what I'm doing, I do wish that I would have done it younger.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
then I try
do
to
wish
think
that.
of my younger self trying to do what I'm doing, and I'm like, there's no fucking way. You know what I mean? Because I was so stupid. So like, it's unfortunate because you know you see some young people that are really successful, and in my eyes, I'm like, damn, you go. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I cheer them on, but
For real.
and I'm just like,
Legit.
there. I used to have this thing in my heart where I was just like, I would get upset at myself, and I was like, oh, you're such a fucking loser, or like whatever. But when I really do try to think about the opportunities that I have now, and I really work on getting in that mentality of like 24-year-old Izaak, 23-year-old Izaak, I'm like, damn, bro, I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think I would have been able to handle whatever I would consider now the success or like the life that I
Sure.
had back then, even though that's what I really wanted. So in a way, like you're saying, all these failures, they are failures and you should embrace them, because without like accepting failure and saying like, hey, I fucked up, how do I get better, then you'll just stay stagnant.
Yeah,
and I
just
think
don't dwell on that shit.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people, our friends, everybody that choose to stay like stagnant for whatever
Sure.
reason.
I
That
can
is,
see that.
you know.
I think it's the balance between learning from that, like learning from failure, right?
Mm-hmm.
And learning from failure and not like just dwelling in it and not being able to move on it. And it's very much the idea of like history repeats itself if you don't learn from it, you know?
Yeah.
That's
and
true.
It just
That's
does.
very true.
What's it called? Did you have any questions for Note?
There's a better quote version of that.
I think I lost my train of thought
I
at
know,
first.
sorry.
Like,
I was trying to find a better
I was
quote
like,
version
I
of
was
that.
like so into like this whole failure thing.
There's a better
Yeah.
quote for that history. I know there is.
Is that what you're gonna choose to get your mind caught up on, or are you
No,
gonna
no.
fail and then rise from that?
I'll
Ooh.
rise from that. I will have to, right? To learn to do that requires
Yeah.
a bit. You
I
know?
think
So
for me, that's been like the biggest issue, is just to come out and try these things. Because even now, dude, I'm scared.
yeah.
Like whoever's watching this, I'm scared you're watching this. I'm scared about the judgment. I'm scared about all that stuff. But I'm like, at the end of the day, I've been having a lot of thoughts at night. Like I literally wake up at night and I'm like, I'm gonna die one day. Almost every night.
Yeah. I can see
And
that. What do you
and
mean?
I'm just like, I have to do something. And so this is my answer to that, is like, do and start, you know, like my dream, which is, maybe this is not the greatest dream, but it's my dream, you know? And I want to be able to be around the group of people that I love and create things with the group of people that I love. When it's like filmmaking with you, it's always a blast. And it's actually helped me now travel places, dude. You know what I mean? So I'm always super thankful for that. And doing this, like where we get together,
Yeah.
even though
I
we
mean,
have...
That's on your own volition too. You know, you should be proud that you did that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right?
I am. I mean, I am very proud, but like it's been hard work, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like sometimes it's hard to actually sit down and like be thankful to myself. I think
Mhm.
that's the biggest thing. You guys are always telling me to learn how to take a compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I
Just
think
take the compliment.
I'm really
Yeah.
bad at taking compliments, because in my mind, like, and I think this is why we're really good friends, is because we're so able to be honest
Mhm.
and be like, hey, this is garbage.
Mhm.
Fix it. And it's just like, I mean, I think that's a true stamp of a friendship, when you can tell
Sure.
that to your friend, like, hey, you're acting like a piece of trash. Fix yourself, you
Oh,
know?
yeah, yeah.
Talk shit to them in front of their face, but talk
Yeah.
hella nice to them behind like their back. You know.
I
You know
hate
what I mean?
that. Yeah, I can't be around people like that. That like talk shit behind your back but can't tell it to your face.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think transparency. You know, I want to work towards that more in a,
Yeah.
at least in a balanced way, right? Because you can't quite say it where it's like that, because you can't quite put someone on blast. Unlike
I feel like you're pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's just like,
Okay. Never mind then.
yeah, I think you're very straightforward.
Okay.
I think that's why that's why I like you so much,
Yeah.
because it's just like you're just like very this is that, and very black and white
Sure.
in terms of like, sometimes I feel like when I try to tell somebody something, I go around in a loop
Sure.
so I won't hurt their emotions. But what's really cool that I like about you, that I also try to like incorporate
Sure.
and balance, right? Because everything's a balance.
Yeah.
Is like, I never have to be like, well, what did he mean by that? Or like,
Sure.
what is because it's like, hey, this is where you're not cutting it. This is what I like. Fix this. And then it's just like
Yeah.
super simple. So I like that,
Yeah.
especially when we're working, because it's just like, it's a very simple thing to correct yourself from. And what I have trouble now that I'm starting to lead my own projects and stuff is getting that
Yeah.
across. You know what I mean?
I learned, I think, from you and my brother Nuke,
Mm-hmm.
to you can be direct, but how you convey it needs to be positive, right?
Yeah.
And have
With
like
a
a
smile on
it
your
has to be it has to be constructive.
Yeah.
That's a constructive. That's the biggest thing, and I still find that challenging, because it's like sometimes people react in a certain way where you're constructive, maybe I need to work on being constructive. But when you're constructive to them and fairly direct, they still take it not in a wrong way where it's like, oh, it's hurting their feelings. They don't quite understand the gist of what I'm saying, you know?
Or the severity.
That seems
I feel
that's the easiest way of saying
I
that.
feel like some people still take it like very to the heart, very to
some
the
people
heart,
do
and,
that
like
too.
they don't know, like they're just not used to being told like very direct. You know what I mean? It's like they're so used to like people running around them and being like, oh well, like you can probably like it's good, but you know the hear this and that, and they're used to that. But when someone tells them, it's like, no, you got to work on this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then they're all like, oh,
That's
like,
hard.
Oh, here it
and
goes.
then it feels like
I got one.
Okay.
Keep your mouth on the microphone.
I feel like my mic, like,
Is it good? Yeah, because a lot of the times I've had some complaints where you go like this.
yeah, I've actually had a lot of complaints.
Or
Yeah.
and so I mean, sometimes
Learn from it.
Learn from it.
Don't
And
get
sometimes
butthurt.
evidence, right? It's
Yeah.
hard. I find sometimes hard
I actually
too,
came to this podcast like with that in my mind, but I feel like sometimes like
It's hard,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I'll
like
try
you
and
know what I
keep
mean?
this.
Like I move my head a lot,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so like trying to like talk into the mic
Sure.
and then like look at you. Like
Mhm.
I have to work on like the type
know,
of
You know,
movement with my head.
off of what you're saying, I do feel I still have a lot of problems with my partner when she criticizes me, but like I'm asking for bro, she's very meticulous in the best way possible,
Mm-hmm.
you know? You've worked with her, so you know.
Mm-hmm.
And my feelings get hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and we both know. So I'm like, hey, can you help me with this? And she's like, yeah. Are you gonna be all right? And I'm like, no, but I need this to get better, you know? But I always find myself every time she's like, hey, like you misspelled this, or like you didn't pay enough attention here. And I get so angry. And I find that I always have to defend myself. And I think it's like, again, this is at the process where it's like, well, like you either choose to grow from it and like learn that, hey, this is all your ego, or you just stay like a piece of shit or like whatever. It's not, I don't think it causes fights or anything like that, but we both have noted that I'm like, hey, why are you getting upset? Like you asked for this help. So, but it's only with her because I love her so much. And like, it's very hard for the person that loves me to hear their criticisms on my profession. So it's only for profession.
Sure.
Everything else is fine. If she's like, hey, don't that hurt my feelings, I'm like, okay, let's talk about it, blah blah, you know. But only for the professional, and we both noted it, so I'm trying to really work towards it. But it's very difficult for me, and I've been trying to figure out like, why do I get butthurt so much to the point where I'm just like calm down. You know?
No, I was just thinking it's probably just kind of like the craft. I feel like when I try and do something, like especially like on the creative side, when it's harder to hear the critiques. I feel like when it's something else like that has to do with like anything else, is just like just kind of like the way I'm doing or something that I'm doing outside of it, then it's fine. You know, I'm like, you know what, you're right. But then when it has to do with me actually trying to like create something and build something, it's like, well, fuck, I feel like I'm putting all this work in it, and you're just kind of like fucking trashing on it.
You're
and
putting
then
yourself
you
in it. Right?
And then you're kind of like, well, fuck you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you feel like you're putting yourself in it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were, I do find it sometimes like I can be more transparent with you. I'm trying to find that with people, right? Because I find it that sometimes I think it's a necessity, but you have to deliver it in a good way, right?
Yeah.
And like, and sometimes people don't need to take all that in. I find it, you know, and maybe they're not in the receptive phase yet. I think that sometimes people have to learn to be able to take that, to be able to understand that.
100%.
And, you know, I find it challenging, and you know, and I understand. I understand when that happens. So I think, but like, it's like if you ask why, right? Is it because it's personal? It's something you care about, and you're putting yourself out there, and they're saying this is not good enough.
Yeah, I think now that you guys are talking through it with me, which I like, therapy.
Right.
It's exactly Rodolfo saying, like, I had to create something from scratch, right? And then not only that, now I'm putting it on the chopping block to the person that, if for some reason, like, the fact that I'm just like like, I love this person so much with all my heart, it hurts it almost feels like I'm not good enough, right? And then, but here's the thing is, like, I trust her opinion so much that I do have to get an opinion from her. And I think the thing that is the transparency that we have, you and I, is because we're kind of in the similar world, right? So I think we can understand each other better in the way that we will phrase things. And since she's not in that world, but she's in a very analytical place, I still take that analysis and take it to heart and try to fix things. But I think also the lack of awareness for her in what filming is and how it takes place can phrase things in ways that do hurt my feelings. But it does definitely have to do a lot with the fact that I created something from inception, and it's, you know, that this is something very new for me where, like I was saying, I'm super scared to even do this, right? And I think you and your brother are the people that push me the most to be creative, in the sense of, like, Izaak, you're creative like Izaak, and you guys babied me about that for like 2 years until I finally felt confident enough to start doing my own projects, you know, because for the longest time I'm like learning. You guys are like my film senseis. You guys have helped me so much, even in the success that I have doing films and stuff like that, that for the longest time I was like, you're not creative, you're just with creative people, you're just good at management and stuff like that from the military. That's a skill that anybody can learn, you know what I mean? To be to lead people and to teach them how to do it right. The military spends millions of dollars on people, so they teach you, and you can refer back to books and shit, you know what I mean? So when it comes to me being creative on my own, even now I'm like, that's why it's hard for me to take a compliment. It's like, I'm not good enough. These people are just being nice to me, you know what I mean? So it's very hard for me to, when I'm now creating, you know, to like have that be critiqued. It makes me feel so vulnerable, and I'm like, I was right, I'm not good, but I have to squash all that and fix it, and just shut up and fix it.
So there's two things on that. The first is, well, what happens if you are not good enough, right? Someone's gonna say that. There's gonna be a bar where you're not good enough, you know, or to someone. They could be right, they could be wrong, or if it's a general census, you know, where it's like, hey, this is bad. It's better to know that with a smaller audience than a bigger one, because I think everyone's gonna go through that in this field or in any field, in any, you know, endeavor where it's like, it's not good enough, and you think it is, or you know it isn't, but no one said it to you, and you have to be able to accept that. Yeah. Because the next audience is gonna be bigger.
That's true. And
the second thing is, I think a lot of people sometimes say things are good when that's in a way more harmful.
That's the scariest for me.
Yeah. And so let me ask you this then. What's the worst when someone says you're not good enough? This is not good at this moment in time. What's stopping you from saying, okay, 6 months I'm going to be better, or 1 month I'm going to be better?
Nothing. That's what I've been doing.
Right?
But it's, yeah, you're right. But that's the reason I can't listen to compliments. And I think that's an issue for me, at least.
I think,
because why do I give a shit about a compliment? I care about improving. And since I think so little of myself, I look at compliments as like a deterrent, you know, where like, that's just going to slow me down. Why am I going to dwell on something that somebody liked? You know, I'm already doing that. How about you tell me how to improve? And I think a lot of my friends and a lot of people are telling me like, hey buddy, like this also affects like your self-esteem and how you are. And maybe that's why you're so down a lot of the time, or why you're depressed and shit, you know?
So I'm going to play devil's advocate there. And it's like seeing why can't you take a compliment, because you can always improve, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it gives you feedback that this is a good direction to head onto, you know? And if there's a large enough group saying, hey, this is good, then it gives you a direction to move towards. Because I think compliments sometimes, depending on the situation, and I mean sometimes as in like it could be majority. I don't know. They have their place where it's giving you feedback for like the cultural zeitgeist in a way where it's like, this is good for this current phase in time. I'm gonna improve this direction, because if you don't, then you're just gonna aim and wander in whatever direction you're gonna endeavor.
Yeah.
So you need that feedback loop and say, hey, people seem to like this. I'm gonna do more of this. I'm gonna explore more of this and go deeper into this realm. Otherwise, how do you know direction, right? Sometimes, I mean, creatives could ask you, "Oh, I have my own inner artistic thing," but I don't think. Sorry,
no, go ahead.
I think you can like add structure and systems to create a field and say, "Hey, this didn't work. Let's improve." And it's like, let's look at this in a analytical manner.
Mm-hmm.
What did I do? What are the results, or like, or going through all of this, and it's like, hey, what can I improve, what failed, and all of this. But I feel like, and I'm hoping that it's not offensive, I think a lot of creatives cannot do that, or they don't want to. I think people can. I think majority of people can do that.
Can do what? Hold on.
Like add a system to the creative field, because if they add a system, it like squeezes and like limits their inner creativity, their inner artistic feeling. And I'm like, no, we can improve that.
Yeah, that's the main reason that I wanted to have you on, because I think you're a very good example of that. And what I mean by that is, I guess I should have phrased this earlier, but I do take quarrel with people being like, like, I'm an artist and this is this way and I have to follow the process. And I'm just like, I don't, maybe that, I know that works for some people, but I think the people that I'm trying to emulate more and admire more is in the sense, like, there's a system and a way that you can go about things that's very methodical, and you would think it's like, it's counter to what we think as creativity, but in reality, you need like so much structure in order to create.
You do.
And I'm so all over the place that I want to be able to like fine tune, I guess, my energies in a way. So I am trying to take compliments better. I have to remind myself of that a lot. But at the same time, I do see a lot of people who are just like, just keep going at your passion, but they're not really, they're just hammering away every day. Like, I have a very specific person in mind, I'm not gonna say their name, but every single day they're putting in hours and hours and hours of work. And whenever I have brought some type of, it's a criticism or something, they choose not to change, and they think that passion and hard work alone is going to get them there, which is why I was like, I want to have Note on, because you do, you have a very good way of assessing and restructuring yourself in order to keep succeeding.
I think.
Can you expand on that? You have 3 minutes. Thanks.
3 minutes.
No, I'm just kidding.
I think I feel like that's a high bar, and I'm just starting out, and it goes with like the failure, right? To try. I think a lot of people don't try enough, where they're not willing. They're paralyzed sometimes with like not pressing the option. If you've driven a car all this time, but a professional driver gets in the car with you and in the passenger seat, and you get in the driver's seat, you're like, oh, I don't know what to turn on the car. It's like, it's paralyzed to be able to, like, they're just gonna ask you to drive somewhere. If they're just like your buddy or something. But I think a lot of people, I think that's a bad analogy, because there's actually a story behind that I'm not gonna actually expand upon to make that make sense. But it's really, I think people are paralyzed by that. And people, the biggest thing I found at this point in life is creativity is limited by complete freedom,
Ooh.
And so when you have like a blank page, that is so hard to start like creating something with it. When you have some structure, or you have a direction, you can explore that direction. To do anything you want is to do nothing sometimes, where it's like, you won't, right? You're like, well, I can, you have to get that, self drive to be able to do it. But to find that direction, though, when you think about it, when you go do something, you're finding a direction, so you're already moving in a direction. But if you can go any direction, you're not moving anywhere. You can, because you're everywhere.
Yeah,
that's how.
Go ahead.
All right.
That's how the crazy, because I felt like that for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I feel like, dude, I can do this, but like, I did nothing. Like, even though like I can literally go do whatever I want.
Yeah.
As far as like doing some creative, like photography or like video, like
That was me on the
I didn't
bus.
do
Yeah.
anything. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, bro, like what should I do? Like what the fuck?
So sometimes feedback gives you direction.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to take it to move, because otherwise you're not moving if you're not taking direction from which way to go. And then that can spur, well, that's going to spur learning, hopefully. That's going to spur exploration. That's going to spur increase in skill,
Yeah.
you know, and knowledge and wisdom and experience.
I
And
think
so-
I think for me that's exactly what has happened.
Yeah.
I can put myself on blast too a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Like I know you've been telling me to go on these big sets,
True.
and I haven't been. You know, a big part of that is I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm so scared to show up and like I have this rapport with all these other great filmmakers and stuff. And then I'm gonna get there and I have to start over, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going on a set. It's not a huge set or anything like that, but I am taking that step forward because I think you're right. At the end of the day, that is kind of like the fear that's kind of in a sense paralyzing, where I'm stunting my own growth
Yes.
because I'm scared to go and get shit on. But my rebuttal for that right now is I feel so fragile because I'm doing all these things right now, and I think that I am in such a state, like it's almost like I'm walking on eggshells with myself in terms of like anything could break me at this point. And I don't want to have like a breakdown or like a total destruction of myself and my ego, because literally sitting here every day or like filming a vlog, I'm so camera shy, you guys. That's why I act so stupid on my vlog, because I'm so camera shy and I hate looking at myself. I hate hearing my voice. I pretty much just am against myself a lot of the time, you know. So I feel like my ego is so fragile that if I do go on a big set and they're like, what are you, this is my fear. What are you doing here? Who the fuck is this guy? Get the fuck off my set. Who let him in? And then I get somebody in trouble that like got me on like this big set and this big production. And then, so I've been working really hard to, lately to fix the things that I'm scared of, which is not being correct in terms of like when you say go grab, ND24 or whatever, right? Or like, hey, grab me this lens, and getting it wrong. And you know that I'm not a technical person when it comes to knowing exact the names of things, or so for me that's a big fear that I'll mess that up, or yeah. So
Okay, so there's two things to that I do want to explore. I think first thing is it would be, I feel for me, inappropriate to give you an answer like just go and do it if ego and being fragile is the reason. And you saying that, I don't think it would be appropriate for me if I'm not in that mindset currently, or if I'm not, or whoever is talking to you is not in that mindset, of the same mindset. They cannot and probably should not give the generalization of just go and do it, because it could have, you know, negative repercussions that are rippling later down the line. That's, I don't know, you know. So that is part of the self-exploration that I think you have to find answer for, right? Because I feel like it's inappropriate to give an answer if you are vulnerable and are saying you're walking eggshells, because I think the marine answer is like just go, go F and do it. That might not be the answer. I don't, you know. But the other thing is when you're talking about if you get someone in trouble, and what was the last remark you made?
Like somebody that brings you on set.
Yeah, but the ending
you ruined
remark.
their name.
Get off my set.
No,
Fair
the
enough.
ending remark in terms of like, I'm just very scared to mess up. And even though what's crazy. Go
Okay,
ahead.
I remember it now. So attention to detail.
Yeah.
A part of me, and I've said this to you, right? I don't believe that you can't pay attention to detail, because you've shown that you can when it counts, or when it matters to you, or it's something you care and are passionate about. So I sometimes think that when people don't pay attention to detail and they give that, you can tell the difference of someone who actually does not care to the same degree versus someone who finds it hard to. Because, and it may be incorrect, if you care and you put yourself out there internally and you think this is right, and then it's wrong, that hurts and shatters way more than actually not knowing at all and saying, oh, I actually didn't know that. You know? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I didn't remember what this is because I didn't even try. It's okay. So when I'm wrong, oh, I didn't even try. So that's why I failed. It's okay. I didn't even try. So I failed. But saying I tried, I put my 100% there or 99.9, whatever.
Yeah.
And you failed. That's hard because you did put yourself, and that's only something you know. So I think you have the ability to. I don't think it's you find it hard to remember. I think it's hard to expose yourself to want to know that, because if you do get it wrong, and that's gonna be like part of the eggshell. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right?
I guess yeah, it makes sense. I guess I'm still recovering from the whole Trinidad thing too, because that was like a huge project for me.
Sure.
And I was so disappointed. I didn't do anything wrong, really, and I was like ace. You know what I mean? I don't want to really expand on the subject, but it really did throw me for a loop, you know. And then before that, we did the project. So there's been projects where I've been riding high. I've been riding high with you guys, you know. So it's nice, and I'm like, yeah, I'm the shit. These are huge things, huge deals. I'm getting flown out. You know what I mean? And then the way sometimes these projects go, that's out of our hands, has really destroyed my ego a little bit in the terms of like,
didn't know that.
I have to grow, right? So right now I'm in such a learning phase. And I know that I got to show up to like a bigger set, because now we do have those kind of connections a little bit, you know, and like the ability to do so. But at the end of the day, I want to feel confident in my skills. So like I'm constantly like trying to learn to be better, taking classes and all this stuff, because I just don't want those things to happen again, you know. So and then on top of that, I'm doing this thing which is creative on my own, and I'm like Rodolfo, he works 9 to 5, he has one day off, bro. He's here at my house like 4 times a week, dude. Real, and I keep him till like 1 a.m. So like all this is so high stakes for me, but at the same time we're having a lot of fun, I would say. So right now, if I were to really fail at something really big, and you know, whenever I do projects, I think you can attest to this, I always give it my all. Like I'll be up fucking till 4 a.m. I don't care if I don't sleep. So right now, if I were to fail really big, or if I got shit on a big set, I don't know how I could handle that just in this moment in time.
There's an interesting thought that I was thinking of. I don't have the answer to that, you know, but I'm glad you're able to say it, and that I congratulate you on that step. So the thing is, if you don't fail and learn from that failure, you're in that cycle of when the next thing comes in, and you're always learning and you're always failing and not learning, right? And you're gonna be on a set where you aren't confident. So it's like this feedback loop that's saying, hey, I'm not good enough, so I'm not gonna learn, so I'm not gonna fail, or fail to learn, you know, reverse it, so I can't do the next step.
Yeah, I think for me right now is trying to grab the things that I've failed on in the past and be able to get better from them. And I just haven't gotten to. I wish I could do it faster, you know. Yeah. But and I bet you I can. Like if I'm really like a fucking superhuman, you know. But
I feel like the word failure actually might be negative, right? Because it's built into it's been built in culture. Learning moments. Yeah, you got to have more learning moments. Yeah. I can't, that's a generalization. I can't attest to what that means for a specific person, right? And you in this case, how it affects. But I'm looking at it in a macro view of it's a learning moment for you. It's opportunity to learn, so that when an opportunity does come next time, you're not in the situation of I don't think I can do it. Yeah, because you're always going to be in that situation, right? Yeah, and you at some point, I think. To be honest, I think the professional world, needs the ability to. You don't have a lot of leeway in failing. Yeah. In certain fields, you know.
That's why I'm scared. Yeah.
But when you have these opportunities where they don't impact that to that degree, you should take them so that you don't later on make that mistake on a larger scale.
Yeah. Well, since we've talked about, the reason I'm okay with bringing this up is because I have signed up for something.
I am.
You were there. Okay. And
bring Rudy when you can.
Yeah. I'll try if I can. I still haven't gotten the email, but I signed up for something, and it's a really good learning experience. And then I'm also doing like a smaller scale project, and so I'm putting myself out there more. And I am scared, but I'm at the same time, I'm like, as long as I'm just not saying I'm not gonna get better, but I'm not gonna try. That's my biggest fear in the world.
Mm-hmm.
What's your biggest fear? Because that one's mine. Is like, hitting a ceiling, and not being able to grow from that. You know.
I think my biggest fear, probably right now that I can think of, is like letting people that I care about down. It seems so generalized, but it's like they depend on you, and there's repercussions to that you might not know. And it just feels like I think it's like maybe it's not that it's like not you weren't good enough, it's that somehow you couldn't figure out the puzzle for that moment.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
And because sometimes it's like, you know, like let's say you're doing like a I don't know, you're gonna throw a ball, you know. Actually, let's say you're gonna shoot hoops, right? And you're gonna make that 3-pointer, and you've done it before, and it's that opportunity for you to make it to help someone, and you don't, even though you have the skill to do it. At that moment, you just didn't. That's the thing that really kind of irks me. When you've done it before, or you'll do it after, but you didn't do it in that moment, right? It's the thing that you can do. It just didn't happen the way it should have. Those are the ones that are within your grasp, but you couldn't grab it. Those are the ones that are like, oh, not the ones that are like beyond the reach.
Yeah.
These are the ones that were within reach. That somehow, some way, you just couldn't. It didn't happen.
What are you doing to alleviate that?
I think. Well, that's a good question. I am gonna have to get back to you on that, because I have to I think, based on the momentum of this, it's something I have to just think of first before I can answer without like.
You think that's more of like self-conscious type thing that like you build within, as far as like, you know what I mean, like little moments throughout your day or throughout like just kind of time that, I mean, for your specific thing,
I think
that you just
that's a good point. I feel like
you build, you know,
maybe is like I'm questioning now. Is it like not having experience being in moments under pressure like that, and you get used to it, right?
Yeah.
Or is it yeah, I mean, is it that, or is it a paralysis of like expectations of like the weight of that, you know? Because I read this research where it's like, let's say you're an Olympian, right? You've done something you've done before, but the weight of expectations makes you falter, you know?
Yeah.
You're like doing something off because you're not quite in that situation. You haven't done that over time. It could just be that, or it could be I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I'm like thinking, would it ever be something like, do you internally want to fail? That's so 180 from thinking about that.
Like self-sabotage.
Yeah,
I don't know, right?
I'm a big self-sabotager.
Sure.
Yeah.
Guilty.
But I think in the end, you guys know I'm a pretty spiritual person, so my answer to that goes woo-woo.
Okay.
So I just not gonna expand on that.
Okay.
But I do think I am constantly like fighting just myself. And you would think it's easy if you know the answer, that's the answer, but I think the answer for everyone would be a little bit different, because some people crack under pressure. That's different than like self-sabotaging you in a way, or some people are just too scared to even try. I think there's so many factors depending on everybody's life and their experiences up to that point.
But so I do want to add something, because you bring up a good point, and from piggybacking what you just said, this is a fear of something that can happen, right? I'm saying this based off of my recollection. What happens if that's not true? What happens if I succeeded more than that? But that's just my fear of that, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it's self-imposed. So it's just a self-imposed fear that's going through that, right? It's like, this is just based off anecdotal evidence you feel, unless we collect it and say, hey, you actually succeeded or failed based off these circumstances. This is just a discussion of hypotheticals, right? This is a fear of that hasn't, I mean, I'm not thinking of a specific moment. I'm just thinking of something that could happen, and I'm already like laying out what will happen in fear of that. So that's in itself like preparing. Yeah, preparing for that.
Another thing that a lot of people I guess don't see is that we are like, I guess sitting here at this table, we are all not that people think we're successful or anything like that, but I mean, I think I think people think you're successful.
Really?
Yeah, they're
not.
fucking wrong. No. No. But I think you're in a place where it would be not the worst to take your advice. You know, like I think your advice is valid to somebody who wants to be in the creative field and to somebody who hopes one day that their work is revered. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would hope that.
Would you not agree?
No, I agree totally.
I feel like, I guess maybe this is my own self, right? Where it's like I have expectations that are more, and it depends on like what path, what like specific, what like how are you, like how am I answering that, right? Like what question am I answering that to? So it's like, is it like corporate video, or is it like filmmaking in terms of like narrative, right? And like I feel I have different answers to that. I'm like, I feel like it's
I think you're in a place where, here's the first thing is, most people that are filmmakers, you know, and that are like just starting out, they dream of paying the bills by working. You do that, right? And then most people that pay the bills as filmmakers, they dream of having the time to actually do passion projects, which is something you do now. And then some filmmakers that are doing that, then their dream becomes to win some sort of award, which you have won. You know what I mean? So but at the end of the day, like, I guess your career is still starting out, but
I think it's nascent. Yeah.
You know what I mean? In that way, but like you're at a place where a lot of people would like to be, in terms of like you literally have the opportunity to like make even a short or a feature. You have the capabilities, you have people that you can rely upon to do work like that. So that's a place a lot of people are not, that they want to be, you know what I mean? And so that's why I would say like, yeah, you're a good successful filmmaker, even though like getting to that point is mostly based on failures. I think
there are parts where I think that there's a lot to grow upon, you know, and I feel like there's a lot, like a different path. I feel like I could have done more.
Yeah.
I like a lot more, right? But let's hypothetically play the situation where I was to a degree within the bullseye of what you just said. That I have the capability, I have the potential crew, I have all of this. They're hypotheticals, right? They're potentials.
Yeah.
The ability to potentially do something doesn't mean you're going to take it or succeed with it. And that's the scary part, right?
Yeah.
So now that's the next step. You have all of this, doesn't mean you're going to do it.
Is that the step that you're at then?
I think it could be.
Okay.
It could be where it's like, I feel like I've learned a lot, but that there's so much. I've learned a lot, and I'm like, I don't know what I don't know, and that scares me too, you know? And there's so much. The more you learn, the more you're like, I don't know any of this.
Yeah, that's what I hate.
Yes.
It's like it's just a rabbit hole of like, oh, this person knows so much of this one thing and then this other thing, and I'm like, oh, where are you? You know, but all of that, right, is the development of yourself. But ultimately, that potential of like, what can you reach? Well, that's a potential. That's a hype. That's are you going to reach that? That's gonna be what we're gonna find out. Right.
How do you feel going forward? That was such a loose way of putting it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. It's so loose.
You just don't want to say something like.
It's generally, I'm pretty direct and concrete. That question is just so. It's loaded. For
if
me.
It was a girl, I would have thrown the hot dog right in the
hallway.
So how do you feel, I guess, going forward? From what you said and based of where I think that you are, which I think is pretty accurate.
It is.
How do you go from there, right? Being yourself, if that is the case.
Sure.
Hypothetically, that is the case. How do you go forward from there? Like, what's your next steps?
So, award-winning, I think, is a loaded.
It is very
it's
loaded. Yeah.
It doesn't. For me, I could make an award and give it to myself, or my mom or dad or Rodolfo
Yeah,
can
yeah,
give
yeah.
me Rodolfo's Best Picture award, and I'm like an award-winning filmmaker.
Yeah.
I think there's a time and place for that, you
Mhm.
know? Some of them, like, it depends to it, but where do I go from that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the unknown of, like, when you haven't charted, that's what's scary of, like, you know? And I'm not going to lie, I think I've been, in a way, scared of that, because it's like, okay, the biggest thing that scares me currently in
Mhm.
terms of filmmaking, it's not the answer to what you asked me,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
to, like a branch of that, is asking for people's time, right? And people's confidence in you.
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself, how much time can you ask of someone? How much can you how much can you ask someone? How far can you ask them to drive? How much can you ask them to do? How much can you ask them to give? Oh, you know, they're all the same things in one way or another, but that confidence of, like, hey, I'm going to spend 2 straight weeks every day after my school or my work or my job or whatever, helping you. And then it turns out to not be that. And then you're like, did they fail? Like, what do you think of, what, you know, in this case, me, what do I think of what they think of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I have, like, oh, it's not good enough, because I do have this expectation that it needs to be higher. Like, if I'm always, like, striving to get higher, but that's just my thinking. I don't know what they're thinking. I haven't asked them. I should ask some people, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And sometimes I'm surprised by their positive answer or optimistic answer, and I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
I should have done more. And that's my biggest thing, to be able to fail with accountability with a lot of people that you care about. I think
Yeah.
that's the really big part.
That's a hard part. Yeah.
It's
yeah,
a hard part, because people are giving you something, and you know, and let's say you pay them, well, they're still giving you their skill and time, and they're choosing this project. And if you don't pay them, that's amped up, because they're choosing to give you this time. They're choosing to give you, you know, their, you know, yeah, I just said time.
Their
So
time.
their
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, put themselves
Their
in a way
focus,
to the project that
this
they believe
project.
in and all that stuff.
And it's like,
so,
I always ask, how much can you ask of someone of that, you know? I'm always aware,
Yeah.
because people have limits, but it's surprising, because
Big
I've seen that the limits are something I've thought of, right? But people are still out there doing it because they want to. So maybe that's, and I'm wrong. I have to reassess that. Maybe people don't have their ability to give
Mhm.
is not as, the capacity to give is not as small as I thought. Maybe because I'm seeing it from more of a objective perspective now, and there's a lot of projects that people are just doing that are not going through, but
Yeah.
they keep doing it.
I mean, we've given
Yeah.
our time to projects that have not panned out in the best
That's
way.
true.
How do
That's-
we? How do
I
you
feel
take
like-
it on the other end when it fails? I would say usually when working with you, we have a level of success of the terms of, like, at least people will see what we made.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which that's kind of nice. That's very nice. You know.
So-
So us now as a group being on the other end of that, how do you feel?
Do you mean a project that pays or doesn't pay?
That
Both,
doesn't-
because we've
Okay.
been on the end of
Okay,
both.
okay, so
So
I'm gonna
we've been
answer
on the
that
end
separately.
of both. Okay. So let's go with doesn't pay first, because I feel like the people that will listen to this are filmmakers who are just starting out, right? And they do a lot of free stuff.
I think
Mhm.
the ones that don't pay, well, you should go in with the fact that you know that's not going to pay.
Mhm.
So you already know the expectation.
Yeah.
You probably should go in with, I at least nowadays I want to go in with, like with a desire to learn something,
Yeah.
an observation of something,
Yeah.
meeting someone new, networking. People do that for that because
Yeah.
I've heard of this quote of, or you know, something along the lines of, you're going to give something, either time or money. And clearly they're not giving money, so they're giving you the time, in this case, opportunity. Well, actually, you're giving them the time, and you
Mhm.
got to get something from that. In the sense of transactional value, you need to get something for the time that you put in, which could be knowledge, networking, which people trade money for time.
Mhm.
Networking with someone that could lead to someone, and it's happened.
It happens a lot.
It
yeah,
happens a
yeah.
lot.
That's
you know?
why I like going whenever I go and it's not something paid. That is my main thing. Is like I have to learn something.
You have to learn
today,
something. You
and
can
I have
meet
to
someone.
meet someone. I have those three things.
Yeah.
So I have to learn something today. I have to meet someone today, and I have to compliment someone.
Yeah. Okay. I
So
like that.
Those are my three.
The thing is, I find that sometimes the ones where it doesn't pay, And that's okay because narrative ones don't when they ask for people's help, but they yield something greater, much greater later down the road, and you're like, wow, I can't believe that happened.
What about we've been at the end of that, and with projects that haven't panned out, right?
Yeah. But you meet great people.
Yeah, and I have that's the one thing is like I have not regretted it once.
Yeah.
And then now we've also been part of projects that pay, and it doesn't pan out.
I think you can still get the same thing of like, what did you learn from that? Why did it not pan out? At what point, what are the learning opportunities from that?
Yeah.
And well, you got monetary value, so hopefully it was enough to compensate for something. So like, hopefully you can pay for something. You get something out of that in terms of like money. Hopefully you get paid enough to like buy yourself dinner, right?
Yeah.
But the same thing applies. Learning opportunities, networking opportunities somehow.
I find the ones that pay that don't pan out hurt me more.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you're putting money in, right?
They're putting money in.
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
project.
So they're putting money in for the project, and you come expecting a level of professionalism.
Yeah.
And a level of like, at least for me and working with you, like you're going to set, you're going into battle in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So when I don't get that from somebody that's actually getting paid for it, it makes me upset. And it also makes me feel like I do try to learn. I try to apply the same things, but for some reason it hurts more at the end when I see what the project turned into.
Oh, okay.
And because like, I guess if you don't have money, and that's kind of like the excuse, and I feel a little bit better when it doesn't pan out because I'm just like, well, I mean, it didn't really have a budget. So that's all right. But we all learned something. But when it has a budget, I'm like, how could you do this?
Yeah, that's a good.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like
good.
you just wasted $20,000, or you just wasted
100,000 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you lease this song? That's 30 large right there. And I don't want to put. Sorry, getting a little personal. But that I don't know why that makes me like, what the fuck? You know what I
But
mean?
here's the thing. That's gonna happen. That happened. That's gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
And you have to examine. Were there signs that you could have now from learning from at least were there signs to that project that now going forward you're gonna notice more in later ones? That's learning opportunity.
Yeah, I would say 100%. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you did, you should. It's hard. It's easy to dwell on like that, and like get frustrated over that. It's very. It is, but looking for the signs, and you really have to look at what learning opportunities can I find.
Yeah. And I don't want to sound like a baby because you do get paid and you're like, oh, that lessens the wound a lot. You know what I mean? And you're like, all right, let's go eat some steaks.
But also then you're always gonna. I mean, there's always something to find. Something where it's like. Maybe the person, and let's say you're in a project and everyone gets paid, and you're wondering how did this person, in their role, get brought onto this project, and then you now see I cannot be like that, or I'm not going to hire, or now I have signs of that when I hire for my own process, for my own job project. The things that I'm like noticing, and I'm not going to add to, or at least these are the things that matter to me, and this is not something that embodies that, so I'm gonna. Let's say not hire this person. So I see those signs somewhere, right?
Yeah. Last question. What's a big misconception that people have about you?
Okay. How about this? What are misconceptions? I feel like.
Oh shit! I didn't notice.
I don't. I'm trying to think of one. Can you give me one that you think that people have of me?
I feel like that's a kind of hard one.
That is a hard question.
It's a hard one to ask.
Hey, we asked the hard questions here. All right. What's a big misconception that people have about you, Rodolfo? What's your biggest fear?
You know what? I don't know. I feel like maybe I like make these up in my mind. I feel like the biggest misconception that I feel like people still have about me is that damn, I feel like people think I'm still like the same like Rodolfo that I was in high school. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Like 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 acts a little hood, like I was a little ghetto sometimes, but like I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah.
Like by far, you know what I mean? And that's just kind of something that I think I still have in my head that
Mhm.
I've been trying really hard to get rid of, because I don't want to be that person no more, you know?
Yeah.
Like high school feels like gone. And I feel like and that I don't know, I feel like sometimes, like, with everything that I'm doing, I feel like people don't take me serious.
Okay.
Oh,
And I feel like I'm like I speak to people about what I'm doing,
Mhm.
and they're like, oh. And then, but I mean, that can just all be in my head, I don't know
Okay.
if, like, like, in their head they're rooting for me, but, like, I just feel like that's what people think,
Gotcha.
and I'm just not being taken
Makes sense.
serious.
That makes a lot of sense. I think, at least for me, I think people think that when I'm particular or when I don't like someone's performance or, let's say, performance, or work, I'm like frustrated at them.
Mhm.
But it's, at least I think I'm more frustrated at that expectation that I know they could have done more because they've shown more,
I gotcha.
that they had that potential that they didn't reach for some reason.
So what's the misconception then, that you're actually putting them down?
Yeah,
Or-
I guess
okay,
so. I
okay,
guess
okay.
so. Where it's like, I think they think I'm putting them down. I don't know. I don't know. I should ask about that. Where it's like, because I don't think I have been putting people down.
I don't think so.
No,
I think
maybe it's my own
yeah.
thinking where it's like, hey, I don't think this is working, and people are like, I'm really demanding or very particular about, like, like a performance.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know.
Well, that's why your shit is good, though. That's the
Well, I mean,
problem.
I hope it
Yeah.
is, right?
I mean, coming from my perspective,
Sure.
and that's why, like,
No, I appreciate it.
that's why I'm always asking you, picking your brain, and, like, whenever you find something wrong that I do, then when I fix it, maybe I don't always fix it to the extent that you would be, like, satisfied with, but then nobody else will find it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is why I always, like, ask you, or like what I'm, or go ahead.
No, that's exactly it. When I'm picky about details, when I'm like, hey, that's not it. I think people are thinking I'm just trying to pick on them for that detail, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's because it's later in life. I feel like these are the ones that they're saying, at least. This particular thing is going to be relevant later.
Yeah.
So when I'm picky, well, I'm going to say picky, but when it's like, hey, that's not a it's this.
Yeah.
It's going to be relevant later when you're on a set, that they're going to be like, this needs it right here, or like, our project, this needs this.
Yeah.
And you say this, and they're like, oh.
Remember, I have the perfect example. It's so minimal, right?
Yeah.
When we're talking about the NDs, right?
Yeah.
Like ND filters. And somebody was like, because we know the normal system was 4.8 or 2.48, right? And the stops with that. But then people are like, what are the 0.3, 0.6, 0.9?
Yeah.
And I remember somebody in particular was like, because Note has these things where we all sit down and go over everything,
Sure.
and it's very good to learn from, but it also, like, your feelings better come protected, homie. You know what I mean? Because, like, yeah, you've been there, like,
Yeah.
Really?
yeah, but I that's what I
Oh.
like about it, because it's just like you leave and you leave better, right? And so even like the lighting stuff that we've done and all that stuff.
I wish I
So
went to that one.
somebody was talking shit about the 0.3, 0.6 ND filter system, and they didn't take the time to really learn it. And literally the next day we're working, and this dude, the DP, I'm like shadowing the DP because I eventually want to DP some stuff, right? And there's a high profile job, and he's like, go grab ND12 or 0.12, and it was 0.9 or whatever. But like, if we hadn't gone over those, then I would have known what the fuck he's talking about. You know what I mean?
I think I remember you telling me that.
Yeah,
like,
and
give me 2 stops down. Or
yeah,
something.
he's like, give me 2 stops down, and he hands me like, and I'm like, I know this. But then I thought that was so funny because, like, literally there was somebody giving a shit for it.
Yeah.
Like, nobody uses those. Like, you know what I mean? And it's
I
just,
think I remember who that person
yeah,
was.
don't put him
I
on blast.
don't.
Don't put him on blast.
Well, you were talking. And
Oh,
he was kinda like,
okay.
he was kind of like mumbling.
Yeah.
under his mouth, and he
Don't
was
put
all
him on
like-
blast.
Okay,
But
okay.
I think those kind of people are the ones that take it hard, or they're
Yeah.
like, oh, why it's such a big deal? And it's like, and it's the reason that I trust you, you know,
Sure.
and because like literally the next day in the next job.
I thought that was so funny.
Yeah,
I
we
thought
were
that
laughing
was so
about it because it was something that we had just gone over. And it's
Yeah.
like, we'll probably won't need this. Maybe it'll happen once in a
Yeah.
blue moon,
Just
and
that
then
was
like
it.
the next
I was
day.
like, oh.
I think people just need to learn that shit. I feel like the way I am as a person,
Mhm.
like I want to consider myself a Swiss Army knife.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the littlest things that I can know. Like let's say like an actor, right? An
Mhm.
actor just wants to act, and then the cinematographer wants to work the camera, and it's like the actor never wants to work the camera, but maybe the cinematographer wants to act a little bit. But then
Yeah.
when he does his cinematography, he's like, well, shit, you know, I know a little bit of acting, and maybe I can like
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
the camera or like work the camera. You know what I mean? It's
I
just
do.
kind of like, for me, that's just the person that I want to be. Like, I just always want to know everything that's
Yeah, but
going on.
I think to a point you can only get so far doing that
Mm.
because once you start getting specialized, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But I feel like it's
So-
still good. It's like good to have it in the back of your head.
Yeah, you're
Like,
just to
even,
know a
like,
little bit of something.
just like not necessarily like read the whole manual, but skim. At least know little bits and pieces. You know,
or the
what I
way
mean?
things the way things work on set, and it does make you be more mindful, you know, because even like I'm always like mindful either with like lighting department or you know, like if since we have to do sometimes a lot of our own audio or something. Whenever I miss Marco so much because he's like the best audio guy. Why'd you move to Ohio, boy? So a lot of the times, you know, like we know so much now better with like audio to the point that now whenever we have like an audio guy, we can keep him in mind
Yeah.
in terms of like, hey, you know, like, and I think that's what you're talking about too,
Yeah.
you know, about becoming better. Well, which I will say in the past, since I've been back since November, I think you've been really hammering that down
Yeah.
and really working on getting better at that. And I think that was a weakness of yours before that. You know what I mean? And even now sometimes we'll be talking about something or like around the camera and you're like, hey, you're a little overexposed, and I'm like, where? And then you're like, and you're able to point it out and pinpoint it and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and it just
Love
that's
that.
very impressive because
is.
before I'm just like, all right, well, here's Rudy, piece of trash.
Yeah.
Nah, I'm just
dude,
giving you shit for
No,
that.
but it's funny
But,
because
yeah.
you say that. Because honestly, like dude, I started coming here without like interested, but I knew nothing about anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
But like
Yeah.
now, honestly, now just kind of doing everything. Like I know how to work bits and pieces of like pretty much everything that can go down on set. You know,
How do you feel? Like it feels great,
it
right?
feels good to
It
know
feels
like where I
good
can
to
walk
know.
on. Like,
Yeah.
It's like great to like care.
yeah.
My biggest step now next is like lighting. I know I'm not gonna be a master at lighting, and
difficult.
so
I've been
uh,
always life learned.
because
That's
long
really
life
what
learned.
I wanna
the
get on.
the lighting workshop was fun, and it took me to the next level in terms of like what I need to work on and what I should do. Why are you looking at my lighting setup, bro?
No, I'm curious when we do the next event here.
Yeah.
Dude,
Oh, you're looking. But
Yeah.
yeah, for me the next step is like lighting, and I was so lucky to be able to step up when we were in Philadelphia
Mhm.
to start camera opping, and I think that gave me a lot of confidence. And now doing that for other people, like I'm confident, you know, that I can do a good job and I can learn this new camera system and stuff like that, to where somebody can tell me something and I can do it.
Mhm.
So then the next stage of that is like I did not know until I started camera operating
Mhm.
how hard it was with lighting.
Mm.
Even though we've been on the sets and everything,
It, you know,
lighting's
once you do the
hard,
freaking
bro.
roll and you're like, I didn't notice that. Like
It's-
I've been here for like 2 years, bro. Like
it's-
I'm
happens.
just like 5 feet behind the camera guy doing the first AD shit. That's what I feel like I'm really good at. And I feel so stupid, right? So now like I really want to get better at lighting, because it's like such a it's if you don't have good lighting, you don't have beautiful shots. If you don't have beautiful shots, you can't. How are you gonna mesmerize somebody? How are you gonna keep
Yeah.
them entranced?
That's how you get the like the real cinematic look.
There's that's interesting because someone told me that sometimes they're like, let's say an actor,
Mm-hmm.
and then they for the first time they have to produce a film. And they're like, and then you sit down and ask them after they produced the film, how was the experience? And they, at least the ones I've asked, all of them have said, way harder than I've ever thought possible. Like I ever thought it would be. And I'm like, really? But you've been on set for like a decade. They're like, yeah, but I don't see behind the scenes. That's like that's right there.
It's like take a new path home, you know.
Yeah,
it's
but this is like
this
is like extremely challenging, and then you just don't see it.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's why it's important, the Swiss Army knife thing that you're kind of saying. And I think that's why it's important to, I guess, going forward to be with more specialized people and I guess keep in mind what they're saying sometimes too. Like it's important because a lot of the times maybe somebody will complain about like this has just been an instance when I've been working off this when I was doing audio with Marco when I was interning with him. Just to learn audio, and a lot of the times he'd be like, hey, this is not good audio wise. And just one particular time with one filmmaker, he was like, shut up, you know, like just very dismissive. And yeah, it turned out like shit. So I don't know, just keeping that in mind too, you know, like that's something that I've been learning. So that's why now like lighting is such a big priority for mine, because I feel like that one filmmaker that was like, shut up. You know what I mean? Where it's like, damn, I need to pay better attention to lighting. Yeah. And actually, the first project that I did, you were also telling me about lighting, and it came out like shit. The Wallet. Remember that short?
Long
yeah. That
ago.
was like 2015. I have a secret movie I've never shown anybody. It's trash. It's the worst.
The Wallet?
Yeah.
Shit. Is it just floating in YouTube somewhere?
No. It's set to private on Vimeo.
Really?
Private?
Yeah.
I do have Vimeo. I should probably go check it out.
It's
see if I can find it.
So a lot of those things, you know, I do try to grow for them and get better at.
Yeah. You gotta do that.
Yeah. Where can people find you?
My Instagram's Lightform Film. Vimeo is the same.
Lightform
Film. Yeah, okay. on Instagram. And Vimeo is Lightform Film, I believe, also.
Okay.
And we're adjusting our YouTube, so we should hopefully have more videos on YouTube soon. I'm like transitioning, or I think continuing on. We'll just upload on both platforms.
Yeah. You have way more YouTube views than I will ever have, and you haven't posted in like fucking 7 years, bro. Like something stupid like that. Yeah, I'm always telling him, I'm like, yo, do something on, like, put it up, like at least while you're inactive or something, you know, like.
Yeah, I'm gonna. That's something I'm like thinking of, like, how do I connect with people, right?
Yeah,
it's useful.
What's your next? Are you having a project anytime soon or anything?
Yeah, like I think there's an idea I have in mind, but I've learned to be a lot more concrete, and I want to hype it up until I have more concrete details. I'm like. I have something in mind, but everybody has something in mind. Okay.
And what's lastly, you know, just to round it off, what's some advice you have for any filmmaker right now that's like wanting to do this, or like even thinking about like stepping into these waters, like just brand new, maybe sometimes takes pictures or videos?
I think you have to be honest with yourself of where you are when you do something, and be okay to say this is not good enough, or I am not at the level I want to be, and being honest with yourself and thinking, oh, I am here when you might be here, like the decay effect is important, because I think everyone's going to go through it, or at least majority of people are going to go through it. But if you can go through that hump sooner, it's going to help you grow faster. And I think people are misinformed about, I think, their capabilities. There's so much to learn, and I think people need to understand that.
Okay. What's some advice you have for me and Rodolfo?
Man, you just put me on this. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You can be harsh. I'm used to it.
Might as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me get back to you on that.
No.
What?
Right no, you have to do it, bro. You're alive. Go on the hot seat, homie.
Before we sign off.
Okay. Get a bigger heater. It's pretty cold. Maybe if you can do this earlier in the day, that'd be cool, because then you don't get so tired at night.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired. I haven't eaten since like noon, so it's almost been like 10 hours. I'm like pretty hungry.
Damn. My bad.
No. I love
Rodolfo has a full-time job, so
okay, that makes sense.
I mean, the only way I can probably do it is
on the weekend or something.
No, if I can take Like if I take clothes to work, and then come take a shower here.
Oh, you can totally do that, bro.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm.
You know?
That's
And you
my
have LA
bad.
Fitness membership is right here too, bro.
Right?
Get out of here. Yeah, this guy's full of excuses, dude.
Excuses.
And what do you have to say to your enemies?
Why are you my enemy? Do I have enemies? Am I?
I don't
your
know,
enemy?
I
I
don't
don't know.
It's just a good
Hey,
question. I
remember,
was
every
saying.
successful person has haters, bro.
Yeah. Well, what do you have to say to your haters?
I love you. Now, I wish I could talk and we can see what it's all about.
Okay.
I mean,
who-
I'm sorry. I'm just. Yeah,
no,
I'm
that's
trying
fine.
to
That's
think
fine.
of
I'm
it,
just
right?
hot rapid firing questions. Who's your favorite all-time filmmaker?
In what context?
Who do you want to? Who do you look up to?
I think
One.
career-wise, I really
Mhm.
like Chris Nolan's trajectory.
Okay.
Like I really like his what he like the freedom he gets.
Okay.
Same.
Like I think it's such a very, he's a very, it's an answer you hear often, but I
Yeah.
think he's affecting this phase, and I don't know who's gonna be the next phase, but it's like I think
Wes
he has
Anderson,
such-
of course.
Okay.
No, it doesn't like Wes Anderson.
I like his films. It's not something I would like. I like his films.
Yeah,
I like
yeah,
watching
yeah.
them. I just find them.
I haven't watched Isles of Dog.
He's like my favorite.
Yeah.
I definitely dick ride Wes Anderson hard, dude. Like
Oh.
I wish I could do movies like him and shit like that, but my heart is too dark, you know.
Then do it dark. Then don't be Wes Anderson. Be I think.
Well,
it's
yeah,
your-
I'm just saying,
Izaak, right?
like the thing we were talking about in the car with the acting thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty dark.
It is.
That's where my creativity is really good. It's just I
Then-
really messed
then
up
you got.
things.
Then maybe people like that. Maybe people are ready for that.
There's
Yeah.
a niche for that.
There
yeah,
is.
yeah. I don't know,
Always.
man. That's what scares me. Where I'm just like, I want to do something else. Like, what if my I always wanted to be like a singer, right? Since I was a little kid, but I'm not good at that. I had to be honest with myself. Like, I don't have the pipes. I don't have the musical abilities to
Maybe-
do that. So like, I'm honest with myself, but like, I'm still in the realm of like talking, I guess, or like I just have to be honest. And maybe I guess singing is not, I guess if I really loved it or something, but I think there's a point where I was honest with myself where I'm just like, you just don't have talent in that way,
Maybe
you know.
I would love if you sang a song for us in one of the next few podcasts.
No.
Right? Wouldn't you
For
want to hear
sessions,
him?
For sessions.
Oh.
Yeah, just like sing a 3-minute tune.
Little corrido, maybe? Some
I'll
mariachi?
think
Something maybe
about that.
in English.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess.
in English. So
I'll-
then the
maybe in
listeners can
Spanish
hear.
might be easier for me.
That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah,
English
yeah.
would be harder.
Yeah.
Or I mean, maybe more challenging.
yeah.
David.
I'll actually have to
Maybe-
write that down as something I have to do now.
For the listeners, maybe
Yeah,
they
yeah.
can comment on what song you should sing.
Right.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah.
Ask
Oh,
people
Put
to
it down
yeah.
in the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. What song do you want me to sing?
I would- oh,
That's so embarrassing. I'll do it. You know
The
what I mean?
challenge right there.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you for
No
doing the podcast. I really appreciate it.
It
I
was
think
a
you'll-
pleasure.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'll definitely, if you want to do it again, if you had fun,
Yeah,
you know,
I had
I'll
fun.
definitely
This is fun.
bring you back. And next time, if you guys have any questions for Note, or if you check out his work at Lightform Film on Instagram and stuff, and you see how good his stuff actually is, because he's over here trying to be modest, and you guys have any questions for him, just let us know, and then I'll ask him next time.
This is
I'm trying to see if if I didn't ask you anything that I should ask you, you know, like what else should I have asked him?
I don't know.
No,
I
you
feel
think
like
we're
I had
good?
this one thing. Maybe just real
Last
quick.
question,
Sure,
just
sure,
rapid
yeah.
fire.
Just kind of. Do you think there's filmmaking? Like, do you see anything going down here in Seattle as far as filmmaking goes?
Oof, very
Real quick, real
That's
quick.
pretty. That's I think that requires a very intricate and complex answer. I think, to be honest, I don't think it's not from what we've seen. If we're on the same path in the near term future, no, not in the sense of like narrative filmmaking.
Yeah.
Maybe corporate, corporate, yes, but not narrative. Not in the near term future. If we're on the same path we are at.
Yeah. Everyone go to
yeah.
Portland then. Fuck.
I think
Portland, Canada.
Vancouver
Yeah.
is big, Atlanta, LA.
Yeah.
But I feel like there may be more diversification, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But in Seattle specifically, I don't think it's designed for that currently. I think
So
yeah,
I have now another question. Why are you still here?
good question. Oh, can't answer. I don't know the answer. I think that's the idea of risk, right? Like
Yeah.
if you move, are you ready to do that? Are you okay with that? And that becomes more of a, can you financially be okay if you move? Are you relationship wise, personal and business and all of this and family and friends, are you okay with doing that? You know, what do you have there? I think that's like that combines the realm of like internal psychology with like fiscal responsibility, financial responsibility, and like the reality of, is this viable?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a hard. That's yeah. I mean, that's a very difficult question.
Right,
to
that's a
even
very
answer.
difficult question. I'm
Yeah,
like,
think
if
about
I
all that shit. You know.
right, hopefully I get. I mean, I'm gonna consider that once I get my feet better. You know?
We'll
Yeah,
bookmark this.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
bookmark that. We'll bookmark that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, last thing. So
Okay.
you're leaving off. Where do you want to be next year?
Hopefully here answering questions from part 2 of this podcast, because
All right.
you guys will have a million subscribers by then.
I don't know about that. That would be nice though.
Okay,
Yeah.
999,000. And when they listen to this,
yeah. All right.
the
Goodbye.
millions-
Note. Thank you for thanks for coming in. Thanks for a good day, a great day. And like Note said earlier, you know, like if you're passionate and you want to do something, carve out the time, because it's like 11 or 11:30
Is
right
it?
now.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
I'm like,
fucking
I'm
late.
pretty
Yeah, yeah,
tired.
yeah.
I like, I think it's
So I appreciate you guys like setting and carving
Yeah.
out the time to do this. And this is the only time we can do it, but we're fucking here and we're hustling.
Yeah, we are.
It's hump day, Wednesday.
It is hump day.
Yeah.
And everybody stay safe out there. Stay wet.